Thank you, everyone, for having us. We're very honored to be part of this event today. Thank you to WGBH for thinking of ACE. I'm going to start today with something that I found in preparing for today's talk, and it's a very short quote. Carbon dioxide is being added to the Earth's atmosphere by the burning of coal, oil, and natural gas at the rate of 6 billion tons a year. By the year 2000, there will be about 25% more CO2 in our atmosphere than present. Okay, so that's not the piece that surprised me. The piece that surprised me is that this was from a White House report that was released 1965, November 5th, 1965, almost 50 years to the day from this event that we're having. So, even that long ago, the scientific community and even government agencies understood that this was a serious issue. How far have we come since that time? Well, this graph shows the comparison of what scientists know and what the American public understands. And as many of us remember, there's a very strong consensus in the scientific community that climate change is real and human-caused. However, the American public, still only 52% agree with that reality. If we take a look at public opinion, so this was a question that was asked by the Pew Research Center, asking individuals to identify what should be a priority for the president and Congress. And of course, you see terrorism, the economy, jobs, education. Now, in order to get to global warming, we have to scroll quite a bit down. And in fact, it is very much near the bottom of the list. Now, you might say that we still have a long way to go, even from that White House report 50 years ago. I'd also like to point out that there are some very strong reasons for hope. Here's one great example, this guy. There was a report that the Yale Project on Climate Communication just released last Friday, and it was called The Francis Effect. The American public and American Catholics now are more concerned about global warming than just 6 months ago. And in fact, 35% of American Catholics say that it is largely because of how Pope Francis is talking about climate change. Here's another exciting reason for hope. So, for over 5 years, there has been a very strong public movement growing against the creation of the Keystone XL pipeline. In fact, I love this photo. It has some ACE staff as well as some of our ACE students at the front of this march. And just last Friday, as everyone knows, President Obama brought a close to that chapter, making it impossible for this project to go forward and citing climate change as one of the main driving forces. Now, another reason for hope is the next generation science standards adoption. So as we've talked about a couple of times today, 15 states have now committed to adopting the standards, and 40 states have expressed real interest and are now in the process of figuring out a strategy to make it real. We all know, of course, that this is the first time that any federal science standards has climate change as one of the core areas of learning. The area that gives me the greatest hope is in the youth leadership that we're seeing across the country. Here's a couple of some inspiring examples. This is a picture of Pablo Gomez. He was one of our first ACE Action Fellows, a high school youth leader, who's now at Berkeley. And this is a picture of him. He was invited to speak next to California Governor Jerry Brown at a policy forum focused on California state climate policy. Here's a picture of Victoria Barrett, a current ACE Action Fellow. She's being interviewed by the Weather Channel about how she and 20 of her young colleagues are taking legal action against the federal government to protect the future of our climate. I love that there's this subheading here. Kid sues government over climate change, alleges carbon dioxide is causing climate change. Now, Victoria Barrett, she has now been invited to go to Paris for COP to speak alongside our global leaders. This is a photograph of one of our students, Celeste Tinajero. She was just awarded a Brower Youth Award for her leadership in her school and community for adopting energy conservation efforts, and transforming the culture of her school, Reed High School in Sparks, Nevada, to really understand the opportunities around climate action. These are really just a handful of the kinds of leadership that we are seeing across the country, in every city where we have an opportunity to connect with young people who are learning about climate change and finding ways to make it part of their real experience, to tap into the optimism, the courage, the creativity about what it might look like if they become involved in a very meaningful way. This is why we do our work. We're a small team, but through very deep partnerships and through working very closely with a strong network of students, we feel lucky to be working in part of the broader effort to make climate change a real priority in this country. Our mission is simple. It's to educate young people about the science of climate change and empower them to take action. One of the pieces that I want to talk about today is our flagship program. It's the ACE Assembly. The ACE Assembly was the first initiative that we created back in 2008 when we started getting going. In fact, I had the unique honor of giving the first ever ACE Assembly. It was February 2009. We had tried for weeks to get into Mission High School in San Francisco. They finally granted us the opportunity to present, but there were only 9 students in the audience, and they were all there on detention. So just a few years later, we have now reached over 2 million students in 33 states in person delivering this multimedia program. And we've been successful in aligning it with next generation science standards, state science standards, and using the best teaching practices of the National Climate Assessment. Some have said that the ACE Assembly is a perfect blend of scientist Neil deGrasse Tyson and superstar Taylor Swift. Now, to give you a much better sense, just a taste of the full 45-minute experience, we actually have a short clip that we're going to deliver, and we are lucky today to have one of my colleagues present it as we would to a live high school audience. So pause for a minute, imagine you're back in high school, and imagine this is the first time you really have a chance to learn about climate change. And remember, this is just 4 minutes of the 45-minute full experience. And so I'll welcome my colleague Melinda Lilly to the stage, who will take it away.
A while back, scientists discovered that the Earth has a sort of giant thermostat that helps us control the temperature of our planet. And these days, that thermostat, it's getting jacked up, way up. Why? Well, it all comes down to some everyday choices we make, and one really big choice for your generation. Because you see, in 2015, you all have inherited a country that's all about, well, living large. But not like that. See, most of us are living large and we don't even know it. So what I mean is we're each taking up way more space than you think, but that isn't easy to see because you only cover a little bit of ground. Now your room and stuff cover some more. And then when you count your home, yeah, you take up some space. And then there's all this space you're using that you never even get to see, like the space in Iowa it takes to grow your food, or in Brazil and China, get the materials to make your stuff, or the space it takes in the Middle East for us to get the fuel for you to drive around. On top of all of that is the space it takes to dump your stuff once it turns to garbage. So you see, anything you buy, use, and eventually throw away has to go somewhere, and you take up that space too. Now let's be fair, because we know not everyone's using the same amount of space, right? I mean, those people who are living really large, they take up a lot more. And all this space, it means resources. And we in the US, we already use 3 times as many resources as everyone else on the planet. And we know that that's not really your fault. You all were just born into this world that was already made by previous generations. So you kind of got stuck living large. Now add that to the fact that every day since you were just 1 year old, advertisers have been telling you that you could be cooler if you just buy more and more and more of their stuff, which kind of makes you want to live as large as you can. But that's the problem. Living so large is what's pushing our thermostat towards way too hot. See, it turns out it takes a lot of energy for us to live this large. We have to heat and cool our homes, produce electricity, and make and move all of our stuff. And to do that, we need energy. Our modern lives just require energy. We don't really have a choice about that. But what we do have a choice about is where we get that energy, because people have found plenty of ways for us to get the energy that we need. So it can come from lots of places, like hydropower, nuclear, wind, solar, geothermal, or even biofuels. But today's fuel of choice, fossil fuels. In fact, 80% of all the energy we have right now comes from fossil fuels. So what are these fossil fuels anyway? You see, when living things die and decompose under lots of heat and pressure for hundreds of millions of years, they turn into coal, oil, and natural gas. And you know, fossil fuels have been really important to us. They powered the Industrial Revolution in the 1800s that led to countless innovations that have improved our quality of life. And at first, everybody thought they were a great idea. But over the past few years, we found that there are some downsides to those fossil fuels. Like, they're underground and really hard to get to. So we have to do things like blow up mountaintops to get our hands on them, or drill deep beneath the ocean to get oil, or sometimes even pollute our own drinking water to get natural gas. We could be going to war over these resources, and eventually, they're gonna run out because they're non-renewable. But the biggest problem is that when we burn fossil fuels in our cars and trucks to produce electricity and make and move all of our stuff, we are jacking up the dial on that thermostat in a major way. So let's take a second to understand how that thermostat really works. See, in simple terms, we can turn the thermostat up or down by changing the balance of gases in the air around us, or the atmosphere. Now, less than 1% of these gases are special gases called greenhouse gases, which keep the planet warm. So here's how it works. Sunlight shines down onto the earth, and some of it gets reflected by bright clouds and ice. The rest gets absorbed by the planet and then re-released as heat. So those greenhouse gases trap the heat near the surface that otherwise would have gone into space. And voila, the greenhouse effect. So when you think about it, you really do have to appreciate those greenhouse gases, because without them, this place would be colder than first period algebra class. No life.
Thank you, Melinda. So we've known since the very beginning, from input from teachers and from students, that this is a powerful experience. But we also wanted to know if it was really having the kind of impact that we hoped it would on student knowledge and attitude and behavior. And so we were lucky to be able to partner with experts at Yale, at Stanford, and George Mason University to survey thousands of students before and after the assembly to get a sense of how it really affected them. This publication came out in November 2014. A couple of the exciting highlights show that 27% increase in climate science knowledge was able to be measured after seeing just this 1 hour experience. There was a 43% increase in students who are alarmed or concerned about climate change. 59% of students increased their intentions to take action. And the number of students talking to parents and peers about climate change more than doubled. That was one that really surprised us, and one that has forced us to think more creatively about how we can channel that energy. We've also been honored by a number of awards over the years. Most recently, we were very fortunate to receive the White House Champion of Change Award for Climate Literacy. By all measures, this effort has been successful. But recently, we've encountered a new challenge. Now, admittedly, it's a good challenge to have, but the demand for this program has far outpaced our ability to deliver the ACE assembly. We are now receiving requests from every state in the country, and in fact, from some countries internationally, and we just don't have the resources to send our team members to Germany. So it gives me great excitement to announce today, for the first time, that we're actually building an online version of this assembly resource that will make it possible for teachers across the country to bring this program into your classroom. It has dynamic animation with a host. There's opportunities for student interaction, trivia, ways to take action through mobile and through social media. We have customizable local stories and impacts to make sure that it is hyper-relevant to the students that you're working with. There are opportunities to engage in campus climate projects that bring the sense of excitement and energy and focus it on real changes to the culture and to the energy savings of the school. And we're also investing in a Spanish language version, knowing that that will help to reach many more students across the US. We, in 2014, partnered with Climate Change Live in an initiative, and we were able to reach over 200,000 students in just 1 month, which solidified that this seems like a very good idea. Now, here's kind of a sneak peek of the website. And as I mentioned, it's coming out in January, but you can sign up for it now. And just to give you a hint, you might recognize this performer. Here's 30 seconds of what it will be like.
Back, scientists discovered that the Earth has a sort of giant thermostat that helps us control the temperature of our planet. And these days, that thermostat, it's getting jacked up, way up. Why? Well, it all comes back to some choices that we make every day, and one really big choice that only your generation can make. As you see, here in the US, we all have inherited a country that's all about living large. Not like that. What I mean is, most people are living large and we don't even know it.
So to get updates when this will be launched, we have a webpage here to give us your information, to join a mailing list. And if you sign up, we're also offering something special for teachers who join in right away. The first 1,000 teachers who sign up will receive a full year of premium access. Also, an opportunity to take part in research that we conduct to improve the program, and an invitation to pilot new resources. If you have a QR reader, that image there will bring you right to the site, or you can use the URL. All right, so before I close, I'm also excited to announce that we have a new initiative that's going to be partnered with this online assembly tool in 2016. Now, we've learned over the years that it is critical to make the connection for students between learning climate science and a way to take action. And in 2016, we're partnering with Next Gen Climate America to launch a national climate competition for young people that we're calling the Get Loud Challenge. Speak up, step up, and win for the climate. Building on a lot of the ideas that were introduced earlier by Jason, this will capture both intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. It will be built on social media and through mobile to give young people the power to take meaningful action. These actions will include educating peers about climate science. It will include talking to parents about climate change, talking to elected officials about climate change, and being awarded through recognition and through prizes. Our goal is to reach 500,000 young people in this coming year, and we're excited to keep everyone posted. All right, so finally, what we've learned. Number one, partnerships are essential. Whether it's building our programs, providing opportunities for students to take action, or doing our research, our partners have allowed us to be part of something so much bigger. Secondly, justice is core to climate. We know that on the city level, nationally and internationally, low-income communities and communities of color are going to experience the worst impacts of climate change. We've learned from working with our students that a justice frame is critical for climate change to feel personal, to feel relevant, and for them to feel like they're shaping a more just world. Finally, empowerment is stronger than fear. We've seen this thread throughout today that the best way to get a generation motivated to address this is to make it fun, to make it seem like they're at the front of changing the world. Ultimately, they are the heroes of this story, and we at ACE, we're doing everything we can to support them. So I'll close on this last 1-minute video to give you a sense of how students talk about climate change in their voice.
Some say we're too young. The problem is too big.
They say, leave it to the scientists.
The corporations.
The politicians.
To them, we say no. We are too busy making history.
Too focused on the future to get stuck in the thinking of the past.
Youth create the future. We always have and always will.
We lead the
We
change.
give the world new beats and breakthroughs.
We
Are now.
And now,
We face a challenge that is bigger than anything we've faced before.
A crisis that will affect
Every single
one of us. Climate change.
climate change.
Climate change.
And so, this is our moment. We're starting small, in our neighborhoods, our schools, our backyards,
our solutions start here.
Solutions that are smart and just,
that will break through and scale up.
that aren't sci-fi fantasy.
Because they already exist.
All that's needed now is for the world to wake up and decide the time for change is now. Now, we need enough of us to say enough.
Is enough.
Calling all leaders,
Inventors,
Makers.
Hackers,
gamers,
Dancers,
artists,
athletes,
class clowns,
scientists,
storytellers,
engineers, musicians, and mathematicians. If you're looking for an invitation, this is it.
the choice is yours.
will it be this?
Or this.
Nobody can choose for you.
The next move is yours.